Hello and welcome to this session in which we will discuss the steps in completing the audit. At this point, we are end of the field work. The field work is substantially done. We tested control. We perform our substantive testing. We perform our substantive analytical procedures. And now we're entering the final stage of the audit engagement. And we call this stage completing the audit. In this stage, we have to perform certain tasks. And we're going to look at these tasks. In this presentation today, we'll perform one task, which is called dealing with presentation and disclosure, or presentation and disclosure. In this phase, to make sure, that the financial statements and the notes, because we're dealing with presentation and disclosure, are properly presented, complete, and compliant with the applicable financial reporting framework. At this point, we are performing a wrap-up. A wrap-up stage including several key responsibilities, one of which evaluating presentation and disclosure. On a timeline, this is what we are looking at. Just to kind of look at the big picture. We're going to assume we're dealing with a December 31st year-end company. From January 1st till December 31st, we did the test of control, substantive testing, we did a test of detailed balances, so on and so forth. We did the field work. This is from January till December 31st. December 31st is the financial statement date. Basically, this is the effective date of the financial statements. Then, we're going to take some time to issue those financial statements, to get those confirmation back, to double check, to get the attorney's letter, to double check a few things, cash flow, so on and so forth. It's going to take us 30 to 45 days to issue the financial statement. Between December 31st, X3, and let's say February 15th, which is 45 days, we call this the subsequent events period. During the subsequent event periods, we have to do certain things. One of them is collect information about presentation and disclosure, which we will discuss here. Look at contingent liabilities, including the client's attorney letter, review subsequent event, accumulate final evidence and perform the final analytical procedures, evaluate going concern and related schedule. Now remember, we do analytical procedures during and at the end. Evaluate results, communicate with the audit committee. We do all of these things. Then we're going to have maybe a day or two later, we will issue the report, maybe February 17th. This is called the audit report date release. Then after February 17th, it will be the post report and release date. And this is what are we responsible for after that. In this session, we'll focus specifically on presentation and disclosure. Let's go ahead and get started. Before we proceed any further, I have a public announcement about my company, FarhatLectures.com. Most students and CPA candidates struggle not because audit is too hard, but because it's taught fast and the logic behind the procedure isn't explained clearly. Then everything feels disconnected. At Farhat Lectures, we break audit down step by step. We explain the why behind the standards, the logic behind the assertions, risks, procedures, evidence, so the whole process finally clicks. When the concepts connect, audit becomes clear and manageable. You stop memorizing and start understanding. Ready for auditing to make sense? Start your free trial at farhatlectures.com. First, what is the purpose of the reviewing presentation and disclosure? We've been doing this all year long. What does that mean? It means if you go back to every cycle, one of the steps is making sure everything is properly disclosed. Now, throughout the audit, the auditor gathered this information about accounting policies, estimate, and significant transaction. We've been doing this all along. At the end, though, we must consolidate and evaluate those items to make sure all required disclosures are included. Completeness. The disclosure comply with the financial reporting framework, in our situation, US GAAP, for accuracy and compliance. Disclosures are easy to read, understandable, properly classified, and meaningful. There's a clarity, proper classification. So the final review shifts the auditor focus from individual account to the overall financial statements. So the point here is we've been doing this all along. Now we're looking at the big picture to make sure everything is complete, accurate, properly classified, clear, understandable, so on and so forth. The typical disclosure review at this stage will have some commonly reviewed item, but those are not all of them, which is if we have fair value, how do we come up with the fair value measurement, whether that's level 1, level 2, level 3. If you don't know what these are, there's one whole session about fair value. So are we properly defining what do we mean by fair value? Long-term contract, if we have a long-term contract company, if we are using the percentage of completion versus the completed contract, did we disclose this policy clearly? Any warranties, obligation, and estimation, depreciation and amortization methods and schedules, straight line, double declining. Are we using the straight line for amortization? The accompanying schedule, any goodwill impairment assumptions, clearly spelled out, any assumptions if we have any goodwill impairment. Stock options plans under EPS effect. If we have stock options, they dilute EPS. Did we explain this properly? Property, plant, and equipment details, schedules, long-term debt terms, average interest rate, and repayment schedule. These areas often involve management estimate. That's why we have to look at them and scrutinize them properly. Now, why do we use a disclosure list? And we need to know what a disclosure list is. I'm going to show you one. A disclosure list is basically a checklist. It's basically a program that audit firms buy, or sometimes they write it themselves. Often they use a software. It prevents oversight in an area such as income tax disclosure, related party disclosure, commitment and contingencies, derivatives, segment reporting, revenue recognition policies, so on and so forth. So what company uses? They use what's called a checklist. And what's a checklist? It's basically a program. When I was practicing audit, we would have basically it looks like a Excel document where you have to check yes, whether you check that disclosure, yes or no. And for example, you will have one section for income tax disclosure, one section for related party transaction. For example, if you have no related party transaction, you might have 50 questions after this. You would say not applicable, and automatically the software would eliminate related party transaction. Now I'm going to show you a revenue recognition, a sample policy. For example, this is a checklist, and this is the revenue recognition. So this is the sample disclosure checklist, the entity's name, the period, who prepared it. For example, I prepared it on 11/25/7. And I would say, for example, disclosure item, revenue recognition policy is clearly explained, and it should be yes. And comments, location, and financial statements, for example, I would say note 3. Major revenue streams are disclosed if separately material. Not applicable. And I would say something to the effect as one revenue source, so we don't have more than one. Account receivable are described including valuation method. Yes. Pledge or factor receivable are disclosed. Not applicable. None. We don't have any of this. Or we can say no. Rather than not applicable, we can say no. And not applicable means we don't have it altogether. Say no, it means we don't have, at this point, we don't have any pledged or factored receivable. So on and so forth. And frankly, I don't remember what's the incorrect amount is no. No, not the correct amount. The incorrect answer is no. So revenue recognition policy is clearly explained. Yes. Major revenue streams are disclosed if material, yes. So you want yes or an A. So anything as a no, you need to explain more, like why not, right? So this is for revenue recognition. This is for the overall financial statements. The financial statements identify the reporting period clearly. Of course, you should do that. You put the date. The basis of accounting, are we using GAAP? Of course, and you want to put down where if you want to put in the note. Significant accounting policies, yes. So management use of estimate is disclosed. If you said no, then you're going to have some explanation to do. Frankly, I'm just gonna tell you, again, don't do this, but when I was in practice, basically the people that I work with mostly would just copy and paste the prior year, mostly yeses, because anything no would need explanation. So basically it's either yeses or NAs. Usually you try to avoid no. Now, how the auditor use this, what test of details they use for the disclosure. There's basically 4 audit objectives. We have to look at occurrence, rights and obligation, completeness, classification and understandability, accuracy, and valuation. And again, we saw those throughout the different cycles, but let's go ahead and review them one more time. Occurrence and rights/obligation. We want to make sure the goal of the objective to make sure that the disclosed events actually occurred and related to the entity. For example, you would examine lending and financing agreement to verify whether assets, receivable, or inventory are pledged as collateral. Did that actually happen? And if it's pledged, do we have the right to it? We would inspect contract to confirm that obligation disclosed footnotes truly apply to the entity. For completeness, what does that mean? Did we reported all completeness, all the required disclosure? What do? This is when we go back to the checklist, because checklist should be good enough to go over everything, to verify that every note required is discussed. Policy schedules are prepared in accordance with the framework. Trace significant transaction to footnote to ensure that no relevant information is omitted. Again, this is for the completeness. Clarity and understandability. We want to make sure that the information that we present is clearly presented, easy to read, easy for the user to interpret. Here we would review the financial statement to determine that accounts are properly classified, current versus long term. Read the footnote to assess clarity, accuracy, description, and the appropriateness of terminology. Now also for this, most companies, they will have basically a boilerplate template, and you just have to change the figures that applies to you. So that usually you don't make up your own wording. Those will be provided to you in form of a template. Accuracy and valuation. Confirm that disclosed amount are correct, supported by evidence, and presented at the appropriate value. Here what you have to do, you have to reconcile footnote disclosure, like for example long-term debt schedule. If we look at the long-term debt schedule and it's 5.4 million, well, if this is the schedule, when we go to the balance sheet, guess what should we see in the financial statements? 5.4 million. What do? We reconcile them. Amortization table, loan confirmation, work papers, we confirm everything. Then we confirm this 5.4 million in the footnotes to the work paper to make sure everything is connected. We might reperform the calculation included in disclosure, like interest schedule, depreciation table, goodwill impairment, to make sure it's computed properly, it's in the financial statements. Check it to the work papers, check the work papers as well. A simple illustration, just to give you an idea. Let's assume a manufacturing company finance operation using a bank loan secured by inventory. They also adopt a new depreciation method for machinery. Now, if you're the auditor, you want to check that the management disclose the pledged inventory. And of course, if it's the case, say yes, that they disclose the change in depreciation method. If there's a change, the answer is yes. Is the depreciation method in accordance with GAAP? It should be yes. Has the reasons for the change has been disclosed? If any, then yes. Check rights and obligation. Review the loan contract to confirm inventory is pledged. How is it pledged? Maybe write a brief description. Check accuracy. Reconcile the depreciable asset schedule to the general ledger. And this is what you're doing. Check classification. Ensure the current portion and the long-term portion of the debt are shown separately. And this is basically an illustration how auditors tie together the detail gathered during the field work to evaluate the full picture and make sure we have all the disclosure. Let's take a look at this multiple choice question from farhatlectures.com. Which of the following procedures satisfy the accuracy and valuation audit objective related to the presentation and disclosure? So we're looking at presentation and disclosure, and the audit objective is valuation and accuracy is the proper amount. That's what we're looking at. 1. Use a disclosure checklist to determine whether the financial statement include all the disclosure required by accounting standard. Well, before we proceed, now if you're using Farhat Lectures, you could just ask AI to explain this topic, which is the audit related to presentation and disclosure, if you'd like to do that. Okay, because we do have Farhat AI. Now, 1, it says it deals with the checklist. What's the checklist used for? Remember, the checklist to make sure we didn't skip over anything. So it deals with completeness. So 1 does not deal with accuracy and valuation, deals with completeness. Good. Immediately we could take out A because it has 1, B it has 1. We cannot eliminate C or D. 2, reconcile the amount included in the long-term debt footnote to information examined and supported in the audit files for long-term debt. Are you doing so? Are you reconciling the footnote to the supporting schedule? So basically you're looking at the footnote and he said, as I gave in the example, 5.4 million. They have like 6 loans and a total 5.4 million. Now, if you want to make sure that's correct, you go to the work papers and you should have 6 different loan agreements and you add them up. You have a schedule for each one and they should add up to the same amount. Why are you doing so? You're doing so to make sure the valuation, this 5.4 million, the valuation is accurate. It's the proper amount. Therefore, 2 is correct. The answer is 2. Now, on Farhat lectures, what you can do if you don't like these answers, you could ask AI to explain the answer choices differently, or you can just ask AI to create a similar MCQ for additional practice. What should you do? Whether you are an accounting student or a CPA exam candidate, the best investment you can make is invest in yourself. Go to Farhat lectures, look at additional lectures, podcast lessons, multiple choice, AI resources, notes to help you prepare. Best of luck, stay safe, and God bless.